Hi and welcome to another sonicstate review. I'm Technomadic and today I'm going to be looking at this colourful little fella, the PlayAllDay PlayFader. So what is this mysterious and colourful box, I hear you ask? Well, it's very eye-catching and could easily be mistaken for Pac-Man's lunchbox, but inside this clever little box is a pair of faders and 8 very colourful, almost sweet-like buttons that give you 2 channels of either note and or CV entry, in addition to that MIDI. So we have our 2 very nice smooth long throw faders on the top, these very nice tactile clacky buttons, and then if we look at the top of the unit here, we have our power input, and we have a row of 6 mini jacks which give us our 2 channels of CV and gate, and then this pair of jacks enables synchronization either via clock in and out, or you can switch them from the back panel here to run MIDI. Now MIDI is also expanded into sending MIDI notes, and there's an awful lot you can do with that, which I'll show you in a bit. So it's just worth taking a moment, with PlayFader being a new company, they are sporting some eco credentials. The PlayFader case and parts of are all made from recycled plastic. So this gives you a sort of hard, durable case which you can flip around and act as a cover to protect your faders if you stick it in a bag. So yeah, all nice, durable but recycled plastics there, and the box as well and other packaging is all paper, recyclable slash compostable. And also in the box, which is a nice feature, there is MyVolt's ripcord, which is a centre negative 9 volt, but it means you can power it from a USB power bank or any spare USB port. Nice little touch there. It's nice to see sort of small companies supporting one another. So MyVolts have been around for a few years now, but nice to see them helping out and supporting PlayAllDay with this. So here it is, PlayFader. As I said, it's 2 channels, which can be either CV and gate or MIDI, or even just CV. So we can have one sending notes and one sending CV information, or one sending CV and gate and one controlling a MIDI device, for example. Fairly simple to navigate, although it does go quite deep, so it's worth reading the very helpful manual and cheat sheet which you get, which shows you the different button combinations. So if we have a quick look, we've got our fun button, time button, scale, clear, and then we have play for each channel, a latch and a loop button. And what this does is this gives you menus, which you can see. You have to twist your head slightly, but you get quite used to that very quickly. And you get different menus where you can set the options and combinations of buttons, which allow you to set some of the deeper functions. But basically, if we just hit trigger, this should now just start playing the basic note, which is a C. Now, so I can just send any note in that's currently set to a chromatic scale. If I hit scale, we can see CH stands for chromatic. If I can go up to major, minor, user scale, or then we get into pure voltage, and we have a 2 volt range, 3 volt range, 5 volt range, and up to an 8 volt range. So if you're controlling pure CV, that gives you the full range of the travel of the fader to adjust whichever parameter you got it patched into. So if I go to user, this is quite handy because you can set your own scales. If I want to set my user scale, I press the fun button and that takes me into the user scale settings. If I want to hold this menu open, all I have to do is double tap this green button here, and then I can take my hand off and it holds basically until you press another menu button. So on this display we've got our root octave, and then our octave span, and then the notes in the scale that we want to select, and this is simply a case of selecting the note, and then you can either turn it off or on with the play B button, and it's that simple. You just turn the notes on that you want out of the octave to play, and then that's your user scale setup. Let's just start by writing a pattern. Now just before I start off, I'm just going to check my quantization is at 16ths. My pattern length is set to 16, but that can go all the way up to 64. And my scale is set to user. So I've already sort of set that up with the notes that I want out of the octave. So I'm just going to record something very basic. We've got a visual metronome you can see here. You get the 2 bars at the top of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to record something in very basic. So it's just a repeating 16th note pattern there, and then I can choose other notes to overdub over the top of that. You can see it's quite easy just to effectively punch in new notes, and you can build up sequences very quickly that way. If I decide I don't want a particular note, I can press the clear button. You see I just killed that note at the end there. Let's just drop that back in. So it's very quick to kind of mess around punching notes in, clearing out ones that you don't want, and you can just build up quite complex sequences, as I said, up to 64 steps using this method. Now, once I've got my notes in, I've got my second channel here set up just to set CV, just to send CV to the filter cutoff, just to demo that. So if I press the play B button, it immediately sends out the voltage that this is set to. So that's right down at the bottom. It's now that only sends while I've got the button pressed. So you can use this as like a real-time performance tool, or if you want to, you can record that automation. See, very quickly you can start building up complex patterns with modulation. So I just want to take you quickly behind the fun button. This is basically a series of real-time sort of performance effects that allow you to modulate the output of the sequence. If I double tap the fun button here, we can see a variety of different effects. So our first one is roll, which sort of repeats a particular note that is selected by this fader. Then we have slice, which is similar to roll, but it repeats a section that you can set the length of. Then you've got sustain, which kind of widens the gate length, so you can get like legato type effects. Then you've got bend, which applies a certain amount of pitch bend to the output notes. Then we have LFO, which applies like a sine wave type LFO that you can set the speed of, a bit like modulation on the notes. And then we have random, which is similar to LFO, but obviously it's like a sort of sample and hold type output. So let's just hear those in action. Let me just start up this sequence I've got in here. So let's go from roll. So the first one, if I hold down the thumb button, we can now see the rate at which it's going to roll. So you can set that. So if I just want like quarter notes, you can hear it's repeating around that particular 8ths, 16ths, etc. You can move all of this in real time while the sequence is playing, and then when you take your fingers off, the sequence goes back to how it was. For our next song, which is Slice. You can set the width of the window here and the placement of the window here, so you can kind of move around between notes, kind of repeat a small section. Then we've got sustain. I hold this one down. This is basically our gate length. You can hear we get sort of legato style effects. Then our next one is bend. Select that. And this defines the length of bend on the A channel. Here it's applying a note bend when I punch it in using the A channel. Our next one is LFO. Now this is modulation, the LFO speed and then the depth. You can see we can add quite a lot of depth there, and our modulation speed as well. Have something fairly subtle, or you can almost audio rate kind of modulations as well. And then our last one, which is random, which is similar kind of thing, but it's kind of like sample and hold based rather than like a sine wave based. Yeah, so that's the performance functions in the under the fun button. Be nice if you could kind of punch those into the sequence, so you could kind of layer up performance effects as well as like the notes and the gates and so forth. It doesn't do that currently, but I believe it is on the wish list for future software updates, so that would be great. Okay, so let's just show you some of the MIDI functions now. I've just unplugged the CVs and I've just got this connected via a MIDI cable using the adapter that came with the PlayFader. It's just connected into my Iridium sitting here. So let me just show you how you get to the MIDI functions. So purple and orange, and then you can select A or B channels. Let me just hold that function open. There we go. So in here in the MIDI, I'll just turn that around. There you go. So the MIDI functions, you've got note, and then you have a series of chord modes which will send out major triads depending on your scale and root note that you've chosen, and then you've also got the option to send out CCs. And indeed notes and CCs separately. In fact, there's a whole load of extra MIDI options there that you can send out as well, but it does mean that you can have, say, MIDI notes sent out on one fader, and you can send out continuous controllers on the second channel and manipulate functions in a MIDI synth as well. Also worth noting, in this menu as well, we've actually got our scaling for different voltage types. So our default is 1 volt per octave for like Eurorack and most modern synths. If you're lucky enough to own a Buchla, you've got 1.2 volt per octave scaling. And if you're lucky enough to own vintage Korg or Yamaha gear, Hertz volt is also included in here. So that's another nice inclusion. Okay, sequencing with MIDI is pretty much the same, except obviously you can send multiple channels out down one cable. If I run this again, that's our channel A sequencing the first channel on the Iridium. Now I should have on the second channel, I put this in chord mode, so I'll just get like a chord stab, which you can hear is going out on a separate MIDI channel. You can move up through different chords, and depending on which chord mode you have, you can trigger those from the second channel. Okay, conclusions. What do we think about this unique little box? Well, it's definitely that. There's not really anything else out there quite like this. Although you could say it's a sequencer, it's the way in which you put notes in is not really like anything else. It really, as the name suggests, encourages you to play with the thing, and that's the really nice thing about it. You can just through playing around, pressing the buttons, you can come up with riffs and ideas and things that you wouldn't have come up with ordinarily. In addition to that, the sort of the colours and the ease of use on that sense, I imagine this will appeal quite a lot to kids, although not exclusively, but for anybody who's got kids trying to get them into music, this could be quite a nice little device for starting to enter things in. On the negative side, I would like to have seen a USB port, but we don't have that on this one, just so you could integrate it easy with the DAW. You can obviously use MIDI for note entering into a DAW that way, but apart from that, I really like it. It's really grown on me the time I've had it. I find myself sort of gravitating towards it, and once you kind of get the hang of some of the fun functions and things as well, it's really nice to integrate that into like live performances, and for coming up with additional ideas. It would be quite nice to see the fun stuff allow you to overdub that into the loop, but again, I think that's on the feature list for forthcoming updates, which this does take. I've seen a few criticisms about the price online, and I kind of get it. It's about £400. I think £395. May vary sort of depending on dealers and things, street prices. I don't think it's an unreasonable price. I mean, people are spending £300-400 on guitar pedals these days, and ultimately the whole idea behind that is for you to inspire you to make music, and this does exactly that. So yeah, I think it's a cracking little box. Get out there, get your hands on one and try it.